evening. I'd like to call to order the special city commission meeting of Tuesday, September 27th. We are here this evening at the 1234 Lynn Avenue in person. Mr. Wiley, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Adam Marl.
Here.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Here.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Here.
And Mayor Denise McGriff.
Present. So we're doing a work session, basically?
No, it's a regular meeting.
Regular meeting, okay. All right, so we are doing a regular meeting. Do we have anybody in the audience? Anybody that submitted a slip? Mr. Wiley? No, okay. All right, let's move along then. So item number, well, one more chance. Anybody here that wants to speak? Citizen comments? Okay, seeing no one. So we have item number 3, general business. The reason that this meeting was called was there was a discussion informally, not together, but individually about what we'd like to do about the vacant city commission position, which is my position, which is commission position number 2, or was number 2. So, Mr. Conkle, did you have anything you wanted to impart to us this evening?
Yes, thank you, evening, Mayor and Commissioner. So at our last meeting, we talked about the process to move forward with filling the vacancy created by Mayor McGriff's appointment or election to mayor. And that was originally going to be discussed again at our first meeting in October. There was a desire, and I reached out to the commissioners to see if they wanted to have an earlier meeting to talk about the process to which there was a desire to do that. So on the dais, and I've given to Mr. Wiley as well, there's 2 documents. One is entitled Timeline for City Commission Appointment of Commission Position Number 4. So this is the process and the date. So you'll see April 8th through the 26th of 21 that we use for filling the last vacancy.
I have number 4. Mr. Morrow's position formerly was position number 4.
So I provided this because this is the last process that we used
this is the process
and the
for me.
timelines that we used when we did that.
That was not clear on here, so I apologize. I wasn't
Okay.
sure why that was that way.
Well, it says 2021 on there.
Well, I didn't see the 21, I just saw the top.
So I provided that as an example of what the commission did last time. So there's nothing in your bylaws, the charter, or the code that dictates how you do this process. Historically, what we've done is open it up for a certain amount of time, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. We accept applications on our typical application form. Those are then distributed to the commission. During that time, while the commission's reviewing those applications, we set up interviews with all the applicants. The commission meets individually with those applicants. It's a public meeting. And then at the end of that meeting, we usually determine who the commission would like to appoint. And then we bring that person to the next commission meeting to swear them in. Commissioner Marl was the last person the commission seat that we filled. As you may recall, there was a very, very condensed timeline between filling the position, and the budget committee hearing started on May 3rd, I believe it was. And so we went through that process. We held a special meeting to appoint Commissioner Marl on a Friday so that he could participate in the budget.
On Monday.
On Monday. You know, a weekend to read. So that's why position number 4 is here before you, just to show you what we did the last time we went through this process. I then provided you a second sheet as timeline for city commission appointment, with 2 options, option 1, option 2. And really the main difference is how long you leave the advertisement open. And obviously it's up to this commission on how this process goes. But here were 2 that ran similar to the time that we did this last. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, or if you want me to walk through the timeline with option 1 and 2 that I put together. Jacob, do you want to just throw that up for me real quick?
Throw it up? No, don't throw up.
Put it up on the screen,
Yes.
please.
Well, I'm just going to go down the line. If either or all of you wish to say something about this. I know that I'm sure that you all have something to say about it. So I said I was asking my fellow commissioners if they had anything that they would like to say about this, because I know that they do.
Well, I certainly do. I may as well come back and kick things off.
Please do.
It's been revealing to me in my short leave of absence to watch these meetings and watch the difficulty of conducting business with a three-member panel. And that bears a heavy load on those three members. And it also forgoes the benefit of another set of eyes, another potential opinion, the ability to possibly discover something that remains undiscovered. Not that the fourth person has any exceptional value, but it's another set of eyes. And I think, in my mind, bringing this commission to as close to full staff as possible, as quickly as possible, is a duty to this community. Having said that, I obviously opt for option one. I would even accelerate that. I mean, I think 2 weeks is plenty of time for those who are interested to apply. It's not something that floats around. I think some of the things I've watched in the conduct of our business is leaving things open for extended periods of time or no specific date lets things float. And in the end, our job here is to get things done, make decisions, move that off the table, and move on to the next issue. So I feel strongly about option one. It's a two-week application. I believe that's how, if I read the dates correctly. And then a review of the applications, which is a 1 week. Is that correct so far? 2 weeks to apply, 1 week to review the apps? And
Roughly, yeah, on option one, we have our commission meeting was scheduled for October 17th, which is a Monday, rather than the 19th, because we were concerned about a quorum. So that's why I put conduct interviews and vote to appoint that week of the 18th through the 21st, realizing we had a conflict on that Wednesday night for one commissioner. So there was really, within that 18th to 20th, trying to find a date when everyone was available to do interviews was the goal there.
Well, I'm all for expeditiously, we're not, who knows how many we'll get, but it's not like we have to read some 200-page document. People are going to submit resumes. They'll be brief and succinct and to the point. Some of the applicants will be known to the people who sit here. Some will be unknown. We'll conduct the interviews where everybody will get the same amount of time to present their qualifications. And in the past, we voted, I believe, immediately after the end of the interviews. And we came to a conclusion. We picked a good individual in every case, I think. And so if we were to select someone on the week of the 18th to the 21st, is there a formal, a regularly scheduled commission meeting on that time?
No, we moved it.
We
'cause
moved it.
To the 17th?
Yes.
Correct. So that's where I put conduct oath of office would either be our first meeting in November, which is November 2nd, or schedule a special commission meeting for swearing in between when the commission decides who they would like to appoint. If there's a big gap in between then and
With all
November
due
2nd.
respect, I will not support that.
That's okay, I'm not done talking
Yeah.
yet. So let's,
well-
wait a minute, hold
Yeah.
on, I haven't concluded my presentation.
Are these going to be a PowerPoint?
No, but there's going to be an emphasis
John's not even here.
on getting things done. As far as I'm concerned, at the conclusion of the interviews, I'd be ready to swear somebody in that night on a regular meeting. I don't know why we would forego it. Now, if you don't agree with that, then I say, okay, then I'll yield on the second. But there's critical issues coming up that need to be decided, and they need to be decided by qualified people. And I know that we're going to put someone qualified up here because we value this commission. So yeah, I'm fast tracking it because I think it has value to be at full staff for the reasons previously stated, or as close to full as possible. That concludes what I have to say.
Go ahead, Adam.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I'm thrilled that Commissioner O'Donnell is back, and it's exactly as he said. Operating as a three-person commission has not been ideal. I think we make a great team up here, but it's another pair of eyes, and to get another addition as soon as possible would be in the best interest of our city. We've been operating where two commissioners can make decisions for the city, and I don't think that's right. And that's different now that you're back with us, but the rationale still stands that the citizens deserve to have their full representation as soon as possible. And so because of that, I agree with option one. 14 days, I think, is plenty of time. Looking at the timeline for when I went through, that was 18 days. It's only a 4-day difference. And we also need to remember that we knew the results of the August 23rd election on the night of August 23rd. And so we also knew that there was going to be a vacancy for over a month now. So I already know there are people who are talking about this and who are, making up their own minds about this, vacancy. And so I think option one is fine because as I've made it clear before, and as Commissioner O'Donnell has said, I think we need to get this filled as soon as possible. I don't really care about a special meeting to swear him in, but timeline-wise, that's where I am.
I love how we're not in a hurry and then all of a sudden we are. I get having the seat filled as soon as possible, but taking a schedule that's been set and then now throwing in this into it is super complicated because most of us have schedules that are filled. So depending on this option, were these two options, because clearly these two options were not a conversation that this commission had. So these two options were staff-driven only, or commissioners on this having conversations with staff?
This was 100% staff.
Okay.
Just trying to put dates
Trying to
down
get
on
it
paper,
as
whether
soon as
that's
possible.
October or November. It's just putting a date to start with a 2-week and a 3-week,
Okay.
trying to get by November 2nd.
When we're saying, like in option 1, 10/13 through 10/18, that's not every one of those nights. I'm assuming we're doing this in one night in between there somewhere?
Trying to leave, knowing that there's going to be conflicts, saying, okay, between the 13th and the 18th, applications can be reviewed by the commissioners, and we're going to be behind the scenes trying to find a date that works for the commissioners and the applicants to do the interviews on that next week of the 18th through the 21st, knowing we have a commission meeting on the 17th that is going to take that day out of an option on that Monday, and then knowing that we have a commissioner who has a conflict on Wednesday, the 19th, which was the reason we moved that Wednesday meeting to Monday. I just know that, I know there's conflict, so I was just trying to leave a little flexibility to find a date that worked.
So right now, looking at option 1 and 2, I couldn't tell you which one works, because I know there's many of those nights that I can't be there. Which is one of the reasons we had to move the other commission meeting in the first place. So I think it's going to be very hard to find dates that's going to work out, but maybe it's possible, I don't know. Or I'll just not make it to one of those meetings, but
I guess what would be interesting
hopefully we
is.
can figure out. But it depends on how many candidates we have and how many interviews there are and all that, I get that. But the tricky part is we're going to be well into October before we even know what these dates are, and trying to plan the rest of the month, not knowing when we have to show up to a meeting is, especially when it's the last 2 weeks. Usually, the last week of the month, we don't have meetings. So those of us that are busy and schedule those things, it's hard to say in a week's time that we're now changing and throwing all this stuff into it, especially with what's all going on this month.
Well, I think there could be some mixing. I mean, it would be good to know if the commission feels like it's, do we want to try to have the commission seat sworn in for the first meeting in November? Because that would be one bookend that we would know. But like, for example, let's say you went option one and we left it open for 14 days. And then we start doing the review and setting the schedule. Potentially that schedule, if the goal is to have somebody appointed by or sworn in on November 2nd,
Right.
then maybe for conduct interviews and vote to appoint, you could actually extend that to the 28th or even November 1st, right? I mean, I guess it just depends on what the goal of this commission is. I think
Right.
those dates can be changed. They're just examples.
Right.
Yeah, you've given a range of dates to try to accommodate what we're going to encounter for attendance.
Right. Yeah.
And I think there's going to be some critical issues come before this commission in short order. I'd like to see the maximum number of commissioners up here possible to reflect the views of the community.
Well, I can't give you an opinion on one option or the other. They both are not very good for me, but go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. I will have to be in agreement with your first statement. I get concerned when we rush into things. And with all due respect to my fellow commissioners, I can only think of one incident where we had a little bit of difficulty making a decision, but that's because we all have very thoughtful and careful opinions about things. We did operate fairly well as a three-person commission. It wasn't ideal, but we did what we did, and I agree with what you said, that we operated as a team. My schedule, and I'm just going to speak for myself, is like yours, probably booked. Not horribly, but it's getting horrible. What I'm concerned about is that I would like to give more time than less. And the reason I'm saying this is that the situation when we were talking, when Rachel was here, when we were trying to get her position filled, we were going into budget. That was critical. We don't have that kind of constraint. I would like to see us give a potential applicants, at least 18 to 21 days. I have no problem with the schedule for the last week of the month. That's usually my lightest week of the month. Knowing what we have coming in the next 2 to 3 meetings, I would like to have as much concentrated time and focusing on what's going to be on those commission agendas as possible, because they are going to be very thorny and somewhat difficult, and I want to give my undivided attention to those particular issues. And the compressed schedule does not feel comfortable to me to allow that time that I think we are going to all need to do that work, and it will be work, and I mean work with a capital W. So by my, just, if we're looking, I would, if I had a moment here, I'd probably come up with an option 3 or something in between 1 and 2. Having gone through this process myself and knowing that you want to be thoughtful about what you put down, and I hope to God by now that our fill-in form has gotten fixed, because that was one of the big problems with it. It would not do one font. It would do big fonts and then compress down, and so it was all over the place. It absolutely drove me nuts. And I know that it would, other people maybe don't care what their applications look like when they come in, but I did, and I had to do some stuff with a person I know that does computer work to get the form to work right. So that is something that I did report at that time, and I think there was something else I recently filled in, and it was still doing it. So if we don't have that form fixed by the time we open this up, that's going to be problematic for applicants. I mean, it just, for any position that we have, that form is problematic, and that's just something that I had worked on myself. So that would be my, and it's not because I don't want to get somebody appointed. We still have a lot of work to do on behalf of this community. And And as I said earlier, that work is going to be very, very complicated. I would like to see more time than less time. I have no problem with November the 2nd. I think that's appropriate. I appreciate that. That last week of the month is going to be less problematic than the other time that was proposed here. So I'm just talking about my schedule. I just opened up my calendar and, looked at it and looked at all the number of dots that are on the days to see what, because they don't give you multiple dots, it's just dots.
Well, I would definitely agree with that and understand where you're coming from. And coming from what I do for work, which is working on campaigns,
Yeah,
this
you're
is
gonna-
also a very, very busy time
And
for me.
stressful.
So I understand and appreciate those concerns. I disagree with the notion that either of these are rushed. I think that, I think they're comparable to what we've done in the past, and I do trust this commission to do our due diligence when looking at these. But again, I do understand the concern for time. And so in the end, I care about where we do the oath of office or when we do that. And so if option 2 is more convincing for the mayor, then I would be fine with that because it has the same end time. It just makes it a little easier for some of the others to actually make it there. I will note that this meeting is a perfect example as to why we should have 5 commissioners as soon as possible, because it's a 2-2 in the affirmative and the negative. So, but as long as we keep the same end of the bookend at November 2nd, then I'm fine with option 2.
Well, we
have a
don't know if
problem
it's
with the
2-2.
bookend.
Someone could abstain.
Okay.
Someone could, yeah.
So it could be 2-1 and 1.
In the long, in the short run, I'm also thinking about all of you in addition to the community. The thing that continues to impress me about you all, my colleagues on this commission, is how hard we all work. And I know that we do, and I'm not just saying that just to pat ourselves on the back, but I mean, I want to let you know that I know that we're all working hard. And that is something that maybe isn't as valued as much, but it's important to me. And we all have been giving, plus 100%, whatever percent we want to say it is, we're here to do the work. We're here to support the community. We're here on behalf of the community. We're here to represent the community, and we're also here to help the community. So we have a variety of roles of juggling. This, barring other things, I had to move a whole bunch of stuff around to make this particular meeting. So and I was willing to do it, but there's always a cost in the end, as you know. So so do we have a consensus that we definitely want to have the end date be the 2nd?
That's fine. I mean, they both end on the 2nd, okay? But the only difference, if you look, let's not confound ourselves. The only difference is the amount of time you're leaving the application open. And you've got float in there that if we could accommodate a change among those floating blocks of time that Mr. Conkle has described where we could potentially meet, we can do it. Anybody that's truly interested is already going to be aware of this, and they are going to apply within a 2-week period. So
They're busy too.
if they're that busy, then maybe they shouldn't be thinking about this job, because this is a demanding job.
Yeah, well, we're all busy too, so I
That's
understand
right.
people's schedules.
So I mean, the fact that you floated out there and then you have people that's like, well, me, I'd kind of like to be a commissioner. Well, guess what? This is not a casual job. And I have sat through 2 appointments, and I'm looking at them, and we did them well. And as has been stated to us, there's really no format. We could sit here tonight and make an appointment if we so wish, but that's not our style. Our style is to open it up to the community.
Transparent.
Give those who are interested an opportunity, and then do it. So I'm still option 1, and come come November, and I don't know what we're going to have on our agendas between now and then. If there's anything critical, if there's any 120-day rule stuff,
Yes.
Yes, there's a
Yes.
lot. See, that's
A
the
lot.
thing, you
Then-
haven't been here, so you don't
No,
know
he-
all the
he-
stuff.
well, maybe I haven't been here, but I've watched it, and I've watched you guys
He is
struggle
very- he
on
is very
occasion.
aware.
Okay,
He's
and
very aware.
and it gives you a new perspective to sit at home and watch those with whom
Yeah.
you serve suffer through the difficulties of making difficult decisions, and it's like, without being able to spread the pain. And, 4 spreads the pain better than 3, and 5 spreads the pain better than 4. So, everybody's going to have a chance. There's an election coming up, and there's an appointment to be made. And I don't know what's on the agenda, but I would, if there's critical issues to be decided, I'd like to be at least at the 4 when they come before us.
Absolutely.
And if everybody feels strongly that the oath of office has to happen on November 2nd, then that's our regular meeting?
Yes.
Correct.
Our
And
first
that's the
meeting in
first
November.
item of business. That person, whoever the selected person is, gets sworn in, takes a seat, and get ready to rumble.
Well, barring the WWE reference, and I know you're surprised I actually know that.
I don't watch WWE.
I don't either, but I know the reference. I appreciate what you're saying. I really do. I appreciate your metaphor about spreading the pain. It's not pain.
It
So-
can be.
Yeah,
It can be. I'm speaking for myself. So I just want the public out there listening to know that it is not that for me. But
It's not a casual application.
it is, I take everything that comes before us quite seriously, and I look at it, and when you're in a position of being an adjudicator to make a decision, looking at the city requirements, looking at the codes, looking at the parameters within which we work, it sometimes can be difficult and challenging. I will say that. So Rocky, where are you?
I guess I have a hard time looking at this because it really depends on the day.
Yeah, I understand.
And I guess
Well, do you want more
I'm
time or
really
less?
trying to figure out is, if this can be done, because we'll have at least one meeting for interviews. But that could be,
Could be 2, it could be 6.
Depends on
Depends on the number of
I definitely
applicants.
don't want to do it.
But we don't know that until we open it up, and we will know that more quickly if we open it up for 2 weeks rather than 3.
I'm just not going to go there.
Do you have anything else to say, Commissioner Smith?
I'd like,
yeah, if it's any more than one meeting, it's going to be very hard to figure the schedule out.
well,
But
hopefully we won't have 11 people apply
right.
like we did when I applied. Well, maybe we will.
so in terms of, for me, and if they're maybe earlier in the evening or something, but I think maybe, we already had to move meetings to make the week of 10, 13 to 18 work, so I'm not sure how that works at all with meetings, if we're going to have meetings that week or
Yeah,
not.
I'm going to be
But
on.
if it's just reviewing the applications, that's probably okay. If we're doing meetings, interviews, the last week of October, I would hope that's earlier in the week than later in the week, because of all these other things going
Yeah,
on.
that works for me as well.
And I guess we'll just have to do a doodle poll and see who can show up.
Do interviews the 3rd week in October work better for you?
October doesn't work, period, but we'll go with it, and if I can get there, I'll get there.
Fair enough. I'm going to make a motion to adopt option number 1 as shown. Everybody, go, I'm sorry.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Call the roll, unless there's more discussion. I'm going to have to decline on I'm just going to be honest, that schedule does not work for my calendar, and there are things I cannot move.
But what it does do is it tells you how many are going to apply and give you the extent of what you're going to have to manage with the remaining time frame.
The 20th through the 24th works way better for my schedule. I have more options
We
because it's
understand.
later in the month to move things around.
Yeah.
But like we were talking earlier, if it sounds like there's agreement of wanting to have the oath of office at the first meeting in October, November,
that's correct.
November 2nd.
That's correct.
So there's agreement there. So if we went with option one with the 14 days, what we could do on the conduct the interviews, on option one, it says 10/18 through 10/21. We could open that up for 10/18 through 10/28. I mean, realistically, we could go to November 2nd if we wanted to, right? I mean, if we went with the shorter timeline, it does give us more time to schedule on the back end, realizing we have a commission meeting on the 17th, we have a conflict on the 19th, we have a DEI meeting the 19th evening. So really, you're down to a Tuesday and a Thursday.
I have a
and
DEI
potentially-
meeting on the 18th all day.
Yeah, do we
So, I
have
mean, I
all
know-
the other?
But it gives us that extra week to do the interviews, and you can still then appoint somebody on November 2nd.
And do you have all the other conflicts that we know of that, like South Fork on the 26th? And, I mean, there's so many
We'd have to go back, I don't have them all in front of me.
different
Yeah, I have
nights.
impact. I have all that stuff.
Might I suggest a friendly amendment for Commissioner O'Donnell's motion, which would be to option one with an amendment to the conduct interviews and a vote to appoint from 10/18 and 10/21, and change that from 10/18 to 10/28. And so that just lengthens the period in which those interviews could happen, given the potential conflicts.
I think what you're saying is reasonable. Again, I think giving people more time than 2 weeks is reasonable. That's just me. I think we had, when I was appointed, I think we had about almost 3 weeks, given, what people are doing. Somebody's not going to just sit down and knock this out in 5 minutes. They're going to be thoughtful and they're going to think about it. I know I wrote mine several times. I don't know what you did, but, you want to present your best self, at least in writing. So
The value of that amendment is it gives those, first of all, I still want to proceed with the 2-week application period, and I do because it tells us, what are we dealing with? Are we dealing with 4 or 40? And that's important because knowing that, then the schedule can be amended in the future. I mean, if we're dealing with 4 or 6, that's a whole different animal than dealing with 16. And I think it's important to define your project before you start trying to schedule a long-range timetable.
okay.
So the value of what Mr. Gebeisman says, it's consideration, and actually that could probably be, we can open it up to that, but that could be amended. Say we had 3 applicants, and they said, hey, I can come in a week ahead of that. I don't need until the 28th. Then the decision on the applicants, the critical decision as to the pool of applicants is made. Then the accommodation can be, well, what truly works for you within this time frame? So I'm okay going with that, Mr. Gebeisman, but knowing that if we get a small number of applicants and the selection process is such that it's among a small number, then we don't need to leave it, we don't need to open it we don't need to hold it open till the 28th. We can have it available without using it. So
I think really it's about accommodating all 4 commissioners or 3 commissioners and the mayor
Yep.
to all be there
still a
with an
commissioner.
unknown number of applicants on an unknown availability. That's
Right.
always the trick on this one.
So, I mean, I'll agree to that amendment, I think.
I will second that.
So as amended, that's my motion. Option 1 as amended with leaving the interviews themselves and the appointment open between, 10/18 to 10? Subject to foreshortening if the candidate pool is small.
Seconded as amended.
Have anything else you want to say, Rocky? Call for the question.
Commissioner Adam Marl,
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Aye.
and Mayor Denise McGriff.
I don't know.
Does it count as an abstention?
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say I was abstaining. I'm only going to vote in the affirmative just to show a united front, but I'm not thrilled about it, and you guys know why.
I'm
So,
not thrilled about it
yeah,
either.
so I don't want to be false to this and not tell you guys how I feel.
So I will take that as a yay. Motion passes.
Remember, it has a certain amount of flexibility to it after we establish the number of candidates.
Is there any other business to come before the commission,
I do not have anything else for tonight.
gentlemen? Okay, nothing else. I will call the meeting adjourned.